Eventually, a third of those who listen to podcasts must be hospitalized because they won't feed themselves. The end state is akinetic mutism, a kind of waking coma.
Please keep listening, though. Welcome to Science Fiction Book Club, a podcast for bookworms and stargazers. In every episode, we dive into the pages of our favorite science fiction novels to break down the big ideas, ask the nerdy questions, and maybe learn a bit about ourselves along the way. As always, my name's Abu, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host.
That's Obsa.
Osa, I am so excited to talk about what may be one of the shortest and most impactful stories I've ever read in my life.
Short and sweet. It's so good.
It's so good. It's so good. But before Obsa, we get into it, we should take care of some housekeeping. Starting, of course, with our spoiler warning. Folks, as the title indicates, today we will be talking about the third short story in Ted Chiang's collection, Exhalation. This short story is titled What's Expected of Us. So, here's what's expected of you before you continue listening, dear listener. Make sure you do the reading.
That's
and don't get spoiled.
It's not that long.
It really isn't.
It's really not. But as always, we encourage you to read along with us, share your thoughts, and email us at sci-fi-bookclubpod@loreparty.com. You can also join our Patreon at patreon.com/sci-fi-bookclubpod. We post free reading guides and discussion questions, bonus clips, and it's also where you can find our Discord, where we like to keep these nerdy sci-fi discussions going with fellow readers in the community.
That's right. And of course, all of those links will be in the show notes below, so check it out after you're done listening. Now, here's the game plan for today's episode. A little bit different. We're going to start today's episode by, as usual, summarizing the short story, summarizing the assigned reading. Then we will each share our impressions of the story and our thoughts. And in our sci-fi analysis, rather than diving into a big thematic takeaway, because the story is so short, we're instead going to take the opportunity here to dive into the meta. We're going to talk about Ted Chiang himself and how this short story and how Exhalation, the short story collection, came together.
Well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll jump right into our reading for today.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
Welcome back, folks. Okay. Let's start with a brief summary of an already very brief short story, just as a quick refresher. This short story, What's Expected of Us, is framed as a warning that's been transmitted from 1 year in the future about a mass-produced device. This device is called a predictor, and it's a very simple gadget. It is just a button with a green LED light. Here's the trick, though. The main feature of the predictor is that the light will flash exactly 1 second before you press the button.
What?
Which, of course, creates this unbreakable time loop that ultimately proves that free will is just an illusion. No one has been able to, quote-unquote, trick the light or trick the button and click it before it lights up. It will always light up a second before you click it.
That's right. And many people, of course, reach the conclusion that if the future is unchangeable, if it's immutable, that their choices are meaningless. About a third of those develop what in the story is referred to as akinetic mutism. It's a waking coma where motivation completely disappears and people just can't get up and do anything.
Right. What's the point?
What's the point? Doctors, of course, try reasoning with patients that their past actions weren't freely chosen either, but their response is as brief and chilling as it is hard to challenge. But now I know.
Oh, the act of knowing changes everything. So the short story then wraps up as the time-traveling narrator, the person who is transmitting this message back to us, offers some advice. Quote, pretend that you have free will. The reality isn't important. What's important is your belief. Civilization now depends on self-deception. Perhaps it always has. End quote. And the story concludes with the narrator, in a very meta way, explaining why they sent this warning in the first place. Quote, because I had no choice. End quote.
Mic drop.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. What a short story. Oh, so what were your thoughts after you read this? What do you think?
I mean, so far, I think my favorite story that we've
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I really like this one. For as short as it was, really punches above its weight.
Yes.
Ted Chiang is able to kind of slice through all of those confusing philosophical and logistical questions about free will and determinism and kind of get right to the heart of the human experience. And it's slightly unsettling. And I don't know. I mean, there's something about how he's able to capture that in such a pithy way that really spoke to me. And this notion that we cannot change the past or the future is kind of, I don't know, it feels like a bit of a cognitive illusion almost, like an optical illusion in narrative form. And the more you kind of dwell on it, the more your head gets a little twisted in the trap that is presented. But I don't know. I found myself kind of really encouraged by, motivated by the way that he approaches it.
Okay, you found this motivational.
Yeah, in a
the writing or the story?
I think the story itself. I mean, I had a kind of almost an opposite reaction to the akinetic mutism. Like for me, it almost kind of propels.
Wait, that's fascinating.
It almost kind of propels or compels action in a sort of backwards way, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I don't find it such a dreadful notion that
no existential dread. You're saying
no, I that's not how I experience it. I mean, it's
wow. Okay.
much like you can't change the past. I mean, to me, the fact that the future is immutable doesn't, on the one hand, suggest that our actions are meaningless per se. It kind of imbues the present moment, which is the only thing we can actually access, with heightened meaning in a sense. Like I ultimately kind of I feel like and this is maybe a physicist would kind of take issue with how I describe my outlook on this, but it sort of feels like the past, present, and the future are all kind of the same thing. They're a description of what happened. Like what happened and where. And I find that it's part of the beauty of being human is our physical limitations, and one of those is that we cannot change the past, and the future kind of kind of falls in the same boat. We really don't have any ability to meaningfully change the future, which isn't to say that we can't have any impact on what happens tomorrow or, at any point in the future, but it all really begins and ends in the present. Like we have kind of impact and control over just this present moment, and I think anything else is maybe hubris,
Fascinating. That's something I've always admired about you, is your ability to be so present and in the now, especially as somebody who never is. I have a deep-seated problem with obsessing with the future, plotting for the future.
Right.
And really this like incredible need to control future outcomes.
Yeah.
To plan for them, right? I'm like a very type A planner so that
Sure.
the future goes how I want it to.
Right.
And so I came away from this story with a deep sense of existential dread
Yeah.
and fear that it's all meaningless. Very
Yeah.
interesting that we had different emotional responses,
Yeah.
but I think critically we both loved it, right?
Totally.
I'm absolutely with you that I was blown away by this short story. And this short story to me is the gold standard
Yeah.
for how you tell something impactful
Yeah.
in just a few pages, right?
Right.
The length or complexity of a story, of a book, of a novel isn't directly correlated with its quality, and this 4-page short story is proof.
Right.
It left me honestly like really sort of horrified and
Yeah.
spiraling for a little bit in an
Yeah,
existential crisis.
Totally.
But I do think that the message at its core is incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
This idea that whether or not free will is true doesn't matter. Who
Yeah.
cares? Because the narrator, and through the narrator, Ted Chiang, spends these 4 pages basically calling us, the reader, into action and urging us to live our lives as if we do have free will.
Right.
Because that's how we maintain our sanity, our happiness. That's how we maintain our societies. Our societies are built on the premise that we are choosing them through our free will.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting how this story explains what happens to that concept,
Right.
to those societies, to our sanity, when we start pushing the boundary of reality and how
Yeah.
much that reality, how much the truth of that reality is different from what we think, you know? And it makes me wonder, like, maybe our brains, our human brains, are just cognitively wired to behave as if we have free will,
Yeah.
even if the reality is that we don't, you know, regardless of the true nature of the universe.
Right.
And so, you know, ultimately, I think at the end of this short story, we're left with a kind of uncomfortable question that I feel like we might fall on different sides of.
It sure seems like we do. Yeah.
Because the question that's left with us here at the end is it better to live with a comforting illusion, the illusion that you have free will?
Yeah.
Or is it better to face a devastating truth that could upend everything you understand about your universe?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not sure which side of the coin I fall on.
Yeah.
Comfortable illusion or devastating truth?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, framed that way, I would certainly typically respond the devastating truth, certainly.
Yeah.
You know, the comforting illusion.
That's my first instinct as well.
Totally. You know, the comforting illusion feels like living a lie, you know, which I don't know that any of us would feel immediately drawn to that outlook or choice. I guess where I'm, you know, where I find myself at odds with that specific framing is I almost want to carve a third option where I suggest
Talk to me.
that maybe it's not a comforting illusion. You know, maybe there's a way that we can recognize the fallibility of our knowledge and also the fallibility and kind of limitations of our language. You know, when it comes to this notion of free will and determinism, I mean, animals certainly have no concept of those terms or those ideas in any kind of meaningful way. And all to say, I guess, that this notion of free will, it sometimes it feels to me a bit like kind of a mind virus, like a pathogen that we spread the more we talk about it and the more that we, I guess, dwell on it, because it offers this really linear perspective on how time works. Like, you know, that every action in the past deterministically produces the outcomes of the present, which determines the outcomes of the future, which is obviously the thrust of this story. It's like a strong case and argument that determinism is, you know, kind of the rightful explanation of the universe. I guess I maybe just don't buy that premise. Like, that feels a little reductive to me, and certainly I can accept it within the bounds of this story, but you know, maybe there are other plausible explanations for why the predictor operates the way that it does. You know, I don't think we've reached the end of our physics, you know, and so maybe a more human position would be to suggest that we actually just still don't know how this universe operates. And this kind of explanation, it still to me feels like they've kind of put the cart before the horse. Like there is this technology wherein the light will, be emitted prior to your clicking the button. But perhaps there's another plausible explanation. There's like the many worlds theory of quantum physics. Yeah, there's like
I think it's really profound of you to say that. And I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase mechanical universe or the concept of mechanical universe, but it's very, I think it's basically the same idea as determinism, but the idea that the universe is like a machine. Right. There is a cause to every effect, and there's an effect for every cause. Like, things happen as a result of other things happening. And this is a big idea in Dune, actually. Frank Herbert explores this a lot and pushes back on it, just like you're sort of pushing back on the button.
Yeah.
You're like, there could be other explanations. It doesn't always have to be cause and effect.
Yeah.
And there are limitations still to our human knowledge. We don't know the inner workings of the universe.
Totally.
And for us to assume that our interpretation of it is the correct interpretation,
right?
I think you're absolutely right. Can be reductive, can limit our very imaginations.
Totally. Like you step outside, the grass is wet, you say it rained the night before. The sprinklers could have been on for all we know,
Exactly. Right.
Maybe a parade of dogs came by.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, to draw conclusions, and especially to draw conclusions based on like past performance, right?
Totally.
The last time I stepped out and the grass was wet was after a rainstorm.
Right.
So today the grass is wet because of rainstorm? Like to draw that conclusion.
Totally.
That's something you need to be wary of
in
this sort of thing. So I really appreciate that. Like I accepted this short story and these facts as truth in the book. That sent me into a spiral. And you took the moment to say, wait a second, is that all though?
Right.
Could there be more here that we don't understand?
Right.
Which I think is a very empowering position to be in.
Yeah. I mean, it's either that or become, completely and utterly,
waking coma,
wrecked by this story. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I don't recommend being utterly wrecked by this story. I had a bad day. All right. Well, that wraps up our summary and our thoughts on this short story. Let's take a quick break. But dear listener, don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we want to tell you all about Ted Chiang's truly incredible career. Yes. I promise you, you are not ready. Buckle the fuck up. We'll see you in a minute.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least that was the plan. Except now the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Welcome back, listeners. Let's talk now a little bit about Mr. Ted Chiang. Truly a legend.
Truly a legend.
Yeah.
Gosh. Working on this script and doing this research made me feel so inadequate as a person, professionally speaking. Like, Ted Chiang is maybe one of the most celebrated science fiction authors alive right now.
Yeah.
And what's really horrifying is that writing is like not even his day job. Okay, let's get into it. Let's begin with Ted Chiang's life and his early career, how things started out. Chiang was born in October 1967 in Port Jefferson, New York, to Chinese immigrant parents. Both of his parents were actually escapees from the communist revolution in China. in 1949. Chiang's father eventually became an engineering professor at the State University of New York in Stony Brook, and his mother was a librarian. According to interviews, Chiang fell in love with sci-fi at the age of 15, very early on, and in fact, he began writing and submitting his stories to magazines, to sci-fi magazines. He would continue to do this for many, many, many years with no success. All the way up through college, he was still writing, still submitting, never once got anything published. He ended up graduating college with a degree in computer science in 1989 from Brown University. Still not a published author. Has been writing since the age of 15, nothing published yet. After graduation, he then took a job as a technical writer at Microsoft and, in fact, moved out to Seattle. At this point, he says he was pretty demoralized by the growing stack of rejection letters that he was getting.
Nearly 10 years of rejection. So
10 years of writing stuff that is never getting published and never getting recognized is certainly a bummer. I can understand this feeling. And he has said in interviews that this is actually around the time where he considered abandoning writing altogether. Maybe this just wasn't going to work out for him. But it's around this time after college that he attended the Clarion Writers Workshop. Ever heard of it?
Ever heard of it?
This goddamn workshop. We bring it up every episode.
It literally turns lives around.
Literally turns lives around. And it does so for Ted.
Yeah.
It convinces Ted Chiang to not give up on writing and, in fact, to continue submitting his stories. And this persistence pays off. He was blessed by the Clarion Writers Workshop because Omni published his short story, The Tower of Babylon, in 1990, which, I can't believe I'm saying this, won him his first Nebula Award.
Just come on.
Come on.
Unbelievable.
Incredible stuff. All right, so now he's a published writer and he's got a Nebula, baby. Yeah. From there, he goes on to write a very slow stream of short stories over the next few years that continued to get him nominations and awards.
Yeah.
And in case you don't know, Ted Chiang basically boasts every notable sci-fi award under the sun. He has won Hugos, Locuses, Nebulas, and I'm talking like plural. Yeah. He's won multiples of those. Yeah. He's won small awards, big awards, local awards. He is one of the most awarded sci-fi authors in the business right now.
Yeah, totally.
And it's thanks to this slow stream of short stories that he's written for a decade plus.
Yeah. And
two decades.
Two decades, yeah. And a decade of failure before that. And most notably, the Clarion Writers Workshop, apparently.
Thank the Lord for the Clarion Writers Workshop.
I have to believe that some of that is just, finding community with like other writers.
Has to be.
You know what I mean? Like, that, or there's something in the
punch at the Clarion Writers Workshop.
So in 2002, Chiang's first collection, The Story of Your Life and Others, was released, bringing together the 7 short stories that he'd written thus far, plus a new 8th story. He won, I'm shocked, a Locus for this collection, because of course he did, but even more notably, the titular short story was adapted into the film Arrival, directed by Denis Villeneuve in 2016. I'm sure you've seen Arrival. It's one of my favorite movies. I love Arrival.
My God,
so
it's
good.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that we had Ted Chiang to thank for that, but here we are.
Here we are. And of course, because he hasn't won enough awards, the movie itself won a Hugo in 2017.
Come on.
For Best Dramatic Presentation.
Yeah, of course.
Add it to the pile, Ted. He needs a warehouse. He needs like a separate shed in his yard. Just to put the awards out at this point. I'm in full agreement, Obso. I've seen Arrival twice in my life. The first time when I was still very young. A lot of it went over my head, but I liked it.
Yeah.
The second time, just this year, I wept. It wrecked me.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful film. And dear listener, after you're done with this podcast episode, drop everything, cancel all your plans, hang
Go
up on
watch
your
it.
mother,
Yeah.
go watch Arrival. It is a masterpiece in every sense of the
Yes.
word.
Yeah. I watch it every few years because I have forgotten. Just because I will forget how much I love it, and then I'll see it, and I'll be reminded that I love
Yes!
this movie, and it's so
so
good. Yeah,
It's so good. It Ted Chiang plus Denis Villeneuve, like two
Yeah.
masters coming
Yes.
together to create just one of the best sci-fi films ever made.
Totally.
Okay, continuing on with Ted Chiang's career and life, let's fast forward to 2019.
Yeah.
This is when Chiang released his second short story collection, Exhalation, the one we're covering on the podcast. And this collection included every short story that wasn't included in the first one, plus 2 additional ones. Most critics just heaped praise on this collection, and the New York Times even called it one of the top 10 fiction books published in all of 2019. I looked up some reviews from back in 2019 when this short story collection would have come out, just to get a sense of what the reception was like at the time.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to share 2 of them. As usual, I tried to find one that was more critical and one that was more positive. So Cheryl Vint gave the collection a glowing review in the Los Angeles Review of Books. Cheryl writes, quote, "Chiang is a writer of precision and grace. His stories extrapolate from first premises with the logic and rigor of a well-designed experiment, but at the same time are deeply affecting, responsive to the complexities and variability of human life. Exhalation is a stunning achievement in speculative fiction from an author whose star will only continue to rise." End quote.
Yeah, Cheryl, correct.
Correct. Nailed it, Cheryl. And I feel like his star has risen. Have you seen his award shed in the yard?
Yeah, exactly.
It's bursting at the seams.
His awards mansion, if you will.
His awards mansion. Okay, so here's a more critical review that I found from Adam Roberts
Yeah.
in a 2019 review in The Guardian. Adam didn't love every single short story, but for what it's worth, he did give very high praise to Merchant and the Alchemist's Gate, which we already talked about, and Exhalation, which we talked about last episode. This is what Adam writes. Quote, "Exhalation's 9 stories are fine. A couple are excellent. Most are good. A couple don't really work. It feels like damning the book with faint praise to say so, but isn't that exactly how short story collections generally work?" End quote.
All right, let's dox Mr. Adam Roberts. Feels like the only
That's
appropriate response to that.
I agree. We're going to blast this information out. Find it on our Patreon, patreon.com.
Yeah,
It also sounds like Roberts maybe has more of an issue with short story collections.
Yeah,
than
yeah, totally.
this one in particular.
Totally,
Maybe
totally.
just the structure of a collection like that.
Yeah. Now, Chiang hasn't published a new short story since 2019, but he has written for publications like The New Yorker on the topic of artificial intelligence, and he is currently a Miller Scholar at the Santa Fe Institute, where he continues to work as a technical writer, his day job, as a technical writer in the software industry.
Honestly,
you have to remember
fuck this guy.
Totally. You have to remember, writing is just his hobby.
He just writes these short stories on the side every few years. Insane.
He was, however, named as one of the most influential people in AI in 2023, according to Time Magazine, which pretty impressive for
Yeah.
for Mr. Chiang.
I recommend folks check out those articles.
Yeah.
He's written about artificial intelligence because I think the way he speaks about AI kind of really cuts through a lot of the noise from an artist's perspective, from a writer's perspective.
Right.
I don't think he is completely writing AI off as a technological achievement, especially as someone who writes sci-fi and explores technological achievements. But like many of the short stories in Exhalation, he's very interested in the human impact it'll have.
Totally.
And so I skimmed some of the articles and I was like, damn, I got to save these, read them, like really sit down with them and read them later.
Yeah.
I recommend folks check them out. I wanted to ask Opsa, how many awards do we have between the two of us?
Ooh.
Enough for a shed, maybe?
Enough for a shelf?
A single IKEA shelf?
A single IKEA shelf? That might be bare, perhaps?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I won a ping pong competition, like championship,
Nice.
at my local mosque as a kid.
Hey,
So I have a trophy
going
for
up.
that.
That's
going
going
up.
up.
It's
That's
going up on
going
the
up.
shelf.
yeah, I've got some track and field day certificates.
There you go. Good.
Certificates, if you will, that maybe we could frame and put up.
Yeah, I definitely have some like honor student ribbons as well that I think we could throw in there.
I've got a couple
Yeah.
pins.
Good. This is excellent. We're building the wall and we're coming for you, Ted. Incredible stuff. What a
Yeah.
career. And I, for one, am thankful
Totally.
that he drank the punch at the Clarion Writers Workshop and didn't give up on writing, baby.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Because
that's
now
the
we
thing.
get to be here gushing about his stories and his
Absolutely.
writing.
Yeah. I mean, it goes to show persistence is key.
That's right. Well, there you go, folks. There's a little bit about Ted Chiang as a writer and how Exhalation came together, how these amazing short stories came together, and what the reception was like for these books. Always super fun to do this type of research because it really gives me context
Totally.
for what we're reading.
Totally.
And the context here is, hell yeah, brother. we got a good one.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait till he drops his next collection and
I know,
just
right?
sweeps every award for the next 15 years.
Yeah. In my research, I actually found a quote from another sci-fi author who was like, honestly, it's kind of like an open secret in the sci-fi author community that whenever you're publishing a book, you're just praying to God that Ted Chiang doesn't decide to write a short story that year. You're just like, please, not 2025. Please, Ted, just do it in 2026. My book comes out this year.
So funny.
All right, folks. That wraps it up for what's expected of us, the third short story in this collection. Here's your homework. As I'm sure you can guess, we're assigning you the next short story in this collection. That one is called The Life Cycle of Software Objects. It is the longest short story in this book, so give yourself plenty of time to finish reading it, and we'll see you in the next episode for a deep dive on that. As always, if you're wondering what the reading schedule is and when you need to have stuff read by, check out the schedule linked in the show notes below. We have the entire schedule for the rest of the season laid out for you with reading assignments and what books we'll be covering.
Well, friends, some of you will succumb and some of you won't. But you can help your odds by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And be sure to check out the other shows on the Lore Party Podcast Network on loreparty.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at lore_party. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, this podcast depends on self-deception. Perhaps it always has.